Here goes. I don't know why it's so hard to do this. It almost feels like there's a membrane that I have to kind of pierce through to actually allow this to happen. But we're going to give it a good crack here. I think also so much has happened in the last 2 months that I'm still trying to catch up with this shift. I have so many things flowing through my head about what to talk about, and I just end up getting completely jumbled up that I don't do anything. So I thought, why not just address the moment? And what the moment has entailed is probably the biggest awakening period of my life thus far. There's so many layers and levels working on so many different parts of our consciousness. So what I thought I could talk about is just what's been happening to me personally on those different levels and how it relates to the bigger picture. This shift has been enormous, and it's been absolutely remarkable and unbelievable the way that it has aligned. The events in my life have aligned with what's happening collectively. I follow a lot of people on YouTube, and I've always loved the YouTube community so much because it's honestly been a complete light in the dark. I'm still very, very much a student to this stuff, and I'll just say that there are people out there that are so dialed in energetically and consciously. It's just an absolute gift to be able to access that, and people are out there doing this work and offering that level of insight and guidance as their service to humanity. It's just the most incredible thing to witness and be a part of in this crazy time of humanity that we are all experiencing together. So I guess for a bit of context, because I could just talk about this stuff, and I have to kind of give it some structure, but I'm going to use the last 5 years roughly as one of the larger cycles that I've been able to perceive. And it kind of began with a job that pushed me into a place of leadership and a place of experiencing people. And it was challenging. It was extremely rewarding, but it was also very challenging. And it was also just a job in many ways, but it really was a new layer that I hadn't experienced before on many different levels. And it really was an initiation in a way. And then after that, I did that for a year. I met a girl and had a very intense relationship with her, And I'd always wanted to go on an adventure. I'd been in my hometown my whole life and I'd never left. And I had quite a bit of money saved, and I was gradually getting more restless as the years went on. I just had this promise to myself that I was going to leave, and I'd invested all of this money into a vehicle and all the camping equipment, roof tent, tires, lift, drawers, canopy, everything. Batteries, camera gear. And I had it sitting in my house, and I kind of ended up just more or less procrastinating on the idea. It's like I was lacking that motivation to actually get up and leave, because that was a big thing for me to do, and it's kind of not something that people in my family really do. So of course, the way that it was, I don't know what word I would use, orchestrated, divinely orchestrated. And my girlfriend at the time was extremely adventurous. She was from Germany and she'd been traveling all around the world, and she was the opposite of me in a sense. She would make a decision and then go for it. So it was very, once that job wrapped up, it just seemed my whole life in Adelaide began to wrap up very quickly. And I was pulled along for that ride. And to fast track that story, I ended up in a little town called Walpole in the southwest of Western Australia, and I was blessed to find an incredible forest property with a beautiful woman and her daughter, and a really quite an amazing community. And I remember going there for the first time, and it's almost like I just melted into that place. And little did I know that it would be the most significant awakening to myself, and it would be the most important and most loving relationship of my life to that date. And it was gonna be fucking hard, because when you encounter real experiences and you give yourself to those experiences, you are shown everything. And when you're shown everything, you have to face, and particularly on a property that was quite rural, it gave me a lot of time to be on my own, and it just gave me exactly what I needed to see and experience. So a big part of that experience was me coming into contact with my shadow and my wounded child, let's say. And also this perception of consciousness, or this perception of immense conscious phenomena. So it was an absolute roller coaster in many ways, because I was just being shown. And I look back on some parts and it's painful because I have regrets. But it really, those experiences teach you the most about yourself, because you can see where the work needs to be done. And then, I would have these profound spiritual encounters with this force. There was this period where I was just so depressed. It's like the worst depression I ever had. And then I had this experience with a whale that just cut through the veil of that depression like nothing I've ever experienced. But the point is, I went to this sacred place and I had an awakening there over the course of about 3 years. And then all of a sudden it's over. Terence McKenna talks about this collapsing of a wave front, and he says if you take every moment that ever happened, time can be looked at as looking down a hallway, and all those events are kind of stacked in front of one another. And so if you could perceive time in a way where you could see every single event that ever happened all at once, that's closer to the way that time actually works, rather than our linear sense of past, present, future. And so I was having this weird concept come through like this, where I was perceiving this collapsing of a wave front, and all of a sudden that 3 years was like a click of the fingers, like the space between the breath, just ungraspable, how minuscule but immense. Almost like a fractal, you can keep going into it deeper. So this abrupt departure was overwhelming, because I could sense that it was approaching. And there was a few occasions where I actually said out loud, I'm not ready for this. I love this woman, I love her child, I love this property, I love the forest, I love the ocean, I love the silence, I love the incredible ecology, I love the simplicity. And I ended up leaving. And it was time, and the way that it happened felt very like I was being nudged or shoved. And I booked a trip, and I didn't know what that trip held. I'm still on that trip now, by the way. I'm actually quite far into it, but I just basically booked a holiday, and I didn't really plan on catching up with many people. I just booked a place, and I actually hired a camper van and did a big road trip, just so I would have some time to reflect on what had happened and just what was happening to me energetically, because I felt like I was losing my mind. I felt quite ungrounded. And so, fast forward to now, which is roughly about 6 weeks later. And how do I even explain this? First off, all of the content I'm watching is talking about this massive shift, so this upheaval of people's lives. So exactly what I just talked about, people who've been in very comfortable situations for a long time that are suddenly pushed out, and all of those layers are stripped back to our bare form, and we're left to pick up the pieces or process a lot of this experience that we've been embedded in for the last 5 years or however long. And in the kind of more shamanic realm. A lot of the people that I follow are shamanic healers. There's a lot of talk about this particular time laying out a new foundation for what's coming. And it's basically pulling us out of this old way of being on so many levels, on relationship levels, on job levels, on material levels. All of our comfort and familiarity are being stripped away for something new. And this was so synchronous. It's almost like someone was reading my life. All these people were actually narrating my life, because it's exactly what happened. The first thing I noticed was I was deeply reflective of my time on that property. It was such a profound experience. It's almost like I can't grasp the immensity of what actually took place there. And I feel like I could unpack that 3 years for the next 100 videos. That experience comes through to me in so many different words, in so many different types of language. And it brings me to tears. Because when you truly give yourself to an experience in life, it's like life opens, it responds to you, it responds to that commitment in very profound ways. And so I found myself just so deeply reflective of that time. And it was hard. A lot of it was hard. But it humbled me. That was such a blessing to be humbled like that, because I had some stuff, I still do, but to be shown yourself is the biggest blessing. And to be able to see yourself, your lenses of the ego fall away and you're able to see your habits and your behavior, and it's just such a gift. So I've been in this time warp of a reflective state for pretty much this entire trip, and my dreamscape has been very notable. I've laughed a few times because I've woken up and it feels like I've had a Windows update. Like, my dreamscape has been so rich, but I can't draw any visual memory the next morning. It's crazy. It feels like sometimes I've watched like 10 movies in my dreams, and I wake up with this perception that I've physically separated. Yeah, it's been a time. But I've been observing in all the places where I'm holding pain, and I hold a lot of emotion in my gut. So when that happens, like, I basically can't eat. So that's been a challenge in itself, but it's been quite a thing to witness the way in which our bodies store emotion. I've never witnessed it quite as potently as I have now, but just because I've had so much time to myself, and I kind of did that on purpose. I managed to get this incredible share house it's quite old and full of character and just really nice energy, and I've got it to myself, so it's perfect. It's been challenging to just be on my own, really, at times. Today was probably one of the hardest days out of the whole trip, but I can see the treasure in it, I can see the gift, and I actually have thought quite a few times, I think what is happening now is probably one of the biggest moments of my life, because it's literally flushing out this husk, this old self, to make way for, I don't know what's coming, but it feels very significant. It's almost like I feel it's like the initiation or the apprenticeship is over, and now it's time to put the pedal to the metal. You know, put your money where your mouth is, and put everything that I've learned into practice. And my passions are language, storytelling. I love when I can convey what I'm experiencing as close as possible. And for me, that's real channeling. When that type of language comes through, I can now identify that I'm actually the conduit. And so I've been feeling very nudged to just begin with what I enjoy doing, and that is talking about this stuff. I think Terence McKenna once says it's going to just keep getting weirder and weirder, and it's going to get so weird that we're just going to have to start talking about it. We're kind of at the precipice of two different edges, and one edge is like this hard-headed rationalist. Like, we're so rational in our thinking, and we're so analytical as a species, but there's this other side that's really trying to break through that, and it's really based in the opposite. That is the heart and this feeling modality, which is, for me, it's just revealing phenomena that is unexplainable. Phenomena that would make me look like a crazy person to many people, and understandably so. There's been times where I've had to actually log into my rational mind just to check in to see if I'm actually going insane, or am I experiencing what I'm experiencing. And it doesn't take much when you look into what's happening in the world. There's something trying to break through, and ancient humans probably looked at this stuff as completely ho-hum because of how potently they were in communion with this other. And as a modern society, we suffer from this massive historical wounding of conditioning and object proliferation and war and violence, and that kind of primal emergence. But I think we're really at the precipice of that way of being, and I mean, certainly for me personally, I can just feel this presence trying to make itself known through all facets of my awareness, through my senses, through my dreams, through my reflections, through music, all the things. And it's indicative of our evolution in consciousness. We are rapidly evolving consciously, and through that evolution we're able to perceive more light is able to come through. And I am so stoked to be a part of that. It's the most exciting thing that I can even fathom. You know, I think it's why we're here. I think it's why we're having the human experience, is is because of this very moment. We're here to figure out who we are and why what we're doing here. As a highly sensory, highly perceptive, sentient organism, I truly believe that. And so I feel incredibly blessed. I've had this massive creative dream for so many years now, the best part of 8 years. All of these pieces have just been falling into place, but it's me, it's the instrument that I felt has been holding me back. It's like the tank is full, but the tap's broken. And so all of the people that I'm close to who have graciously listened to my ideas and my creative interests have all just been so unbelievably supportive of what I want to do. And even though it's a very personal thing, creative expression, but to have people that know you, support you, and really truly believe in what you're doing, it's just given me a lot of faith in my ability that what I'm doing means something. And I think I am slightly crazy and weird, but it's all part of it. And I accept that, and I love that about myself. So what does that mean going forward? What does all of this mean? Well, I hope that I can continue speaking, and I really feel like I'm being nudged to enter this flow state and just not make any concrete plans and just keep creating, keep practicing creativity. And yeah, so that was kind of the point of this video. If any of this resonates with you and you're in that space of uncertainty, just try and surrender to it and try and observe what is actually trying to come through for you, because most likely you're destined for something greater, and you know the answer to that. And that in itself kind of allows you to sink into the present moment a bit easier if you understand that there's actually a process unfolding here. You know, it takes deep trust, and it's really challenging to let go. That's been one of my biggest lessons, is learning how to let go, and I'm still an absolute student to that force. But it's all about surrender, and it's all about kind of grasping at the dangling tethers that we can see. And it's a gradual emergence. It's not to be rushed. And you pick out the pieces that you can see in front of you, and you don't try to overextend. It's quite a delicate, gradual unfurling, I guess. And it takes the edge off if you look at it in that way. So trust your divine emergence. And I hope that this reaches you at the perfect time.